Hey guys, so I wanted to tell you the story about truth number one, which is saving a one-legged pirate from drowning. You'll notice behind me, I'm here at Utah Lake, which is actually where it happened. While my wife and I were dating, she invited me to go boating with her family. We went later on the evening, and as we were wrapping up, it started to get a little windy. And so the waves started getting pretty bad. So we started heading in, and on our way in, we see off in the distance this sailboat that flipped over and was upside down on the lake. And we see these three guys like treading water around it with these giant waves coming, and they're just waving us down like, hey, help, help, help. So we don't know what we're doing, but we decided we'll go over and try to help. So we went over to try to help, and like I said, the waves are getting bad and everything, and their stuff is just floating everywhere all around this boat, and they're trying to flip over the boat, and they can't get it over, and they're treading water. So we start trying to help them get in. So we throw them a rope, and we're helping them in and everything, and me trying to impress my wife, who at the time was my girlfriend, and trying to impress her, I'm like, I'll save the day. So I run in, jump into the water, because I see one of the guy's hats along with a couple of his other things like floating right there by the boat. So I jump in, grab the hat and everything, and then I start to swim back. But the waves are just keeping me in the same spot, and I just can't get any closer. So my sister-in-law actually had to end up throwing me a rope and saving me too. But that's beside the point. We were able to pull in these three guys into our boat, and one of them that we pulled in, we realized that he was missing a leg. We're talking to the guy, and he's telling us about this little adventure that they're doing, where he would go around from lake to lake to lake and just take his sailboat out and talk about his experiences on his blog, and he called himself the one-legged pirate. So there you go. That's where that comes in. We ended up having to get the Coast Guard to come and help, and so they came over with their boat, and they were able to tie a rope to the mast and flip it over. And sure enough, on top of his mast was this giant, at that point it was super muddy, but this giant pirate flag that he put on top of his sailboat. One-legged guy, called himself the one-legged pirate, and we were able to rescue him and bring him in. So there you go, I'm counting it. Saved a one-legged pirate from drowning. All right, so number two was the lie. In actuality, I wasn't bit by a brown recluse spider. Or a hobo spider. I can't remember which one I said. I think I said hobo spider. In reality, it was a black widow, and that happens to be Utah's number one most poisonous spider. But I totally deserved it. It was around the 4th of July when I was a lot younger, and I was outside burning ants with a sparkler, which is not a good idea. One of them was not an ant. It ended up being a little black widow, and it came up and was really, really fast. It came and bit me on the foot, and that was that. So now, for those of you who guessed number three, you already know that it's true. I did go head-to-head with a full-grown chimpanzee in an alpha male contest, and I did lose, but I survived. That one actually happened on my mission. So I served my mission in California. My second area was Palm Springs, California. It was kind of a rough transition for me. I won't go into too many details there, but it was just hard. One of the things was that we had nobody to teach. We were the first elders back in that area for several months. I was having a hard time loving the area because of how hard it was, and I was just really praying and asking Heavenly Father to help me have a love for the people and a love for the area. One day, we ended up getting an appointment with a member who was less active, and she lived like on the other side of Palm Springs. So our plan for the day, since we had nothing else going on, our plan was to park our car, and we were gonna walk for hours until we finally got to her place at our appointment. That was at like, I think 1:30 or something. We were gonna talk to anybody that we saw on the way, and we were just hoping that we were gonna run into someone that was ready to hear the gospel. As soon as we got out of our car, it started raining. So as we walked, there's nobody outside at all, anywhere. So we're walking and we're getting a little discouraged, but finally, after walking for a really long time, we see off in the distance on this road that we're on, a man that's outside in his front yard, and we're just thinking like, this is it. This is the guy we're going to talk to. We're trying to make a game plan on how we're going to, contact him and everything. And we noticed that he's in his yard, and his yard's gated off. Okay, so there's a gate all around. And he's in the back corner, so we're going to have to like call out to him and say something that's going to want to engage him in a conversation. So we get to his front gate, and I'm thinking, I gotta say something that's going to be like just super engaging. And I'm looking around his yard, and I see a little statue of a monkey. And so I say, hey, I like your monkey. And then I'm just like, that was the dumbest thing you could have said. That's not gonna work, right? But I say that, and then he turns around and he says, hey, thanks. It's actually a chimpanzee, and I have some real ones in the back. Do you want to come see them? And I'm thinking, like, you do not have real chimpanzees in your backyard. And so he's telling us, he's like, yeah, so I converted half the garage and most of the backyard into this little chimpanzee enclosure. And I have 2 back there. And if you guys want to come see them, I'd love to come show them to you. And so we're like, yes, we want to come see them. So he lets us in. We go through his house, and on our way back, he's telling us a little bit more about these chimpanzees and how he did some performances and stuff in Palm Springs back in the day, and had these chimpanzees to help with that. And we're going through, and we're looking at his walls, and he has these pictures of him with the chimpanzee. Actually, I have one right here. Here's the chimpanzee drinking a cup of water in his house. That's one of the pictures. He gave that to me because I knew no one would believe me if I didn't have a picture. Okay, so we're walking through his house. We're looking at the pictures on the wall. And anyway, he's just a really interesting guy. But as we're walking back, he's telling us about what's going to happen. And he's saying, there's going to be a point when we walk back there where I'm going to have to count down from 3. And when I count down from 3, I need the 2 of you, me and my companion, to jump back as far as you can. And we're thinking like, okay, like what's going to happen here? Like getting a little nervous, Anyway, we get to the backyard, and sure enough, there's 2 full-grown chimpanzees back there. This one, the one I showed you a picture of, is at that point, I don't know if it's still alive, but was the oldest living primate in captivity. That was the one that he did all his shows back in the day with, and then he had one that was quite a bit younger. It actually just barely had reached its full size and was, the alpha male back there. And it was going to show us that it was the alpha male. So it was running around the cage like crazy. And those giant blue water barrels that some people have like for water storage. So it had one of those in its cage, and it was grabbing it, lifting it over its head and banging it on the ground as hard as it could, and throwing it around and just really making a scene, and it was terrifying, right? Normally you think of chimpanzees as being like cute and nice and everything, but no, this one was terrifying. So it's running around making a whole bunch of noise, and then finally it starts to calm down, and we're thinking, okay, like we're probably safe now. But it calms down, and it goes and it runs towards the back of the cage in the little corner, and there it gets a drink, and it's just drinking for a little bit. And we're sitting there thinking, like, okay, like, that's cool. Now it's calmed down. Like, yeah. Anyway, then the guy starts counting. He says 3, 2, and we're like, oh, no. So we jump back as far as we can. And sure enough, this chimpanzee starts running full speed straight at us where we're at. And it jumps up and grabs onto the bars of the cage with its hands and its feet. And it lunges itself forward and spits out all of the water that it just had in its mouth right where we had been standing. And then it smiles great big at us, showing us that it could rip us apart if it wanted to. Anyway, so there's this water all over the ground. We miss. It smiles at us. And then the guy next to us says, there you go. He has now finally proven that he's the alpha male here. So now he'll calm down and you guys can approach the cage. That was my encounter with a full-grown chimpanzee. I told that story to one of my classes last year, and they told me that I should have sprayed it with a super soaker and then said, who's the alpha male now? I'm thinking about going back, because how much cooler would it be to say that this one is true, but I won the alpha male challenge with the full-grown chimpanzee. So I might go back and get a rematch. We'll see. Anyway, that's my story.